Okay, so this is just an introduction to some basic punching from the martial arts. It can be in boxing, kickboxing, martial arts. There's a lot of different things that use this style of punching. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our stances. So the important thing is to get the stance right to start with. So when we're in a stance, I'm now in an orthodox stance. So I've got my right leg back, my left leg in front, because I'm a right-handed person. So this is my natural stance that I would stand in. Some people will stand in the southpaw stance. Obviously, if they're a left-handed person, they will stand in that stance. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stand in my natural stance, which will be a lot of people out there will stand in this stance as well. So, right leg's back, left leg's in front. Now, if you notice that there's that gap running between, so my foot isn't behind my other foot, and that would leave me off balance. What I want to do is I'm making sure that I've got a good balanced stance so that if I get pushed or pulled, I couldn't move over. Now, what we're going to also do is looking at the stance. If you look at the width that I have there, if I wanted to set off running, then that would be a good stance. So that's a good gauge that my front knee's bent, my back leg's straight, but I can push off that back foot to bend that back knee in as well. So if you think about the stance as you're in, what I want you to think is, can I run? Can I set off to sprint, to run? It's a good way to gauge the stance. So the hands now. For some people and for the younger generation, we tend to start with the guard here. It learns you to keep the guard up, but it's not a good place to be. If you're out, or if you're actually in a fight, or you've got to self-defense out on the street, I want to have my hands in front. I want to have my hands in a natural position where I can actually feel for what's going to happen. So my hands naturally will be about my shoulder chest height. If I'm talking to somebody, I might be here. I've got that natural position where I can talk with my hands. I'm in a natural position then that if I need to strike, I can. So we're going to start off with the hands about chest, shoulder height, and just a natural stance. So if you look from side position, I'm in that natural stance. I'm ready. I could sprint if I wanted to, but I'm in that good stance. My front knee's slightly bent, my back leg's straighter, but I can still push off this back foot and I can roll these hips, which is what we're going to be looking at. So from that natural stance, my natural stance, if yours is southpaw, then obviously change your stance. It's still the same. We'll work the punches. So whichever hand is at the front with the front leg. So if I'm in my orthodox stance, my left hand and my left leg are in front. So this becomes the jab punch. If I change my stance, now my right leg's in front, my right hand's in front, that now becomes my jab punch if I'm a southpaw fighter. So I'm going to start off in my orthodox stance. Now, what I want to think about is these hips. The hips have to move. I don't just want to use my arm to punch. I need to be able to engage all my body into this to get the power. So what I need to do is, as I start to think about throwing this jab, notice how the hip drops. My back knee's already starting to move, my foot's starting to drop through, my back foot's in. So now I've got this natural position that my hip is dropping through. Notice what's happening with the shoulder. It's pulling it back. So now I'm in this natural position. I haven't had to pull this arm back. My body is bringing the arm with it in a natural position. From there, I'm going to strike out nice and long and straight on that jab punch in front. So again, with the jab, the hip just dropping it through, back knee slightly bent, this hip's starting to engage. From there, this hip's going to roll in as this hip pushes up and forward. I'm going to use this to drive out that jab punch. So again, into that natural stance, I pull, I'm in for that jab and back. So again, jab and back, jab and back. We'll just do 10 to a count, get you used to it. So get yourselves into your stance. So standing where you've got a little bit of space, and remember that stance position from a side angle. Just have a think about it and look at where your feet are positioned. So from there, I'm going to drive out that jab and back. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to do the right cross punch. If you're changing your stance and you're a left hand side, then obviously your left leg's back, your left hand is at the back, so that becomes your cross punch because it's coming from that back position. So think If you've changed your stance, then obviously it's the hand that's at the back now becomes that cross punch for through. So back into my orthodox position. So feet in stance. Now what I'm going to do is this hip on this right side engages and I'm pushing off those back toes. So as I push, I'm making that position to drive, and what happens is as I push here, it's driving that arm out to bring it through for that right cross. So I'm in, push through, right cross and back. So the hip starts to engage before this arm starts to come out. It's not my arm that's doing the work, it's everything together. So from my toes at the back, right through to my hip and through, right on the end of that punch, I'm driving in. And notice when I hit this punch, as I drive through, I'm on those toes and I'm in and I'm driving forward. If we were doing a longer punch, I might be really extending out, but I can still do that from this position. So again, we're hitting onto that cross punch and back. Just get used to moving that hip through on those toes to drive, and then make it go together on the spot. We'll do 10 to a count, so get yourself set. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we'll put them both together. So now we're going to work them both together. So in that stance again, if you're a left hand side, obviously change your position, it's still the same, just think the jab becomes the hand that's at the front with the front leg. So again, I'll go into my orthodox position, I'm going to roll in for the jab, roll in for the cross. So again, using the hips, 1, 2, and back. So now we're putting it together and making it into that combination of the jab and the cross. So getting that guarding stance, just run it through again, jab, cross and back, jab, cross and back. Always thinking about the body movement and not just placing the arms out in front. We really want to extend into these punches. So again, jab into that cross. Okay, from guarding stance, we'll have a few to count. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we just covered there the jab and the cross punch, just the basic movements to begin. Obviously there's some routines we can do with the jab and the cross. Once you've got used to that, you can start to work it into all sorts of routines. So we can make it into a cardio set. So what we can now do is look at how we can create this into an everyday scenario for us with our training. So if you're at home and you're on your own, how do I train? Especially at the moment while we're all in this lockdown period, obviously might not have a lot of equipment, no pad holders. How do we work this? So if you think about a quick routine, you've got the jab and the cross, we can just roll that in now. So we can just do a rolling in punch set. We're just on the spot and we're rolling in. If you've got any little weights, you could be holding little weights. You could be driving through, really working that, and work it for a minute. Working through, minute at a time, have a little rest, work it again. It's good for the upper body, good for the arms, good for the muscle set, good for the tone. Obviously a lot of people like to feel toned up. Obviously it's very good for doing that sort of thing. So if you wanted to do the jab and cross continuous, you could. You could also do jab, cross and stop, jab, cross and stop. You could really practice the routine. Again, heavier weights for that one. So if you grab some heavier weights, you can really work on the 1, 2, back to guard, 1, 2, back to guard. Just nice, simple routines to do. You could, if you wanted to, you could start with the jab, cross, and then you could switch stance. So in, and then try it in the southpaw, and then switch again to orthodox, jab, cross, and it makes your brain start to think about that routine of which leg's in front to which hand starts. So all the time in and changing and moving on that spot. Again, a great little exercise to do with the jab and cross. For those that are a little bit more advanced, you can hit the jab, cross. You could be doing a duck and roll or a squat. So you might want to do a squat, so working in some legs as well. So a jab, cross, and you can go down, do a squat, jab, cross, or you could do the jab, cross, duck and weave up and coming in, jab cross. So all the time, duck and roll and back. So you're making that U shape up into that jab each time. So duck and roll up into that jab cross. So again, there's a lot of different routines you can work then into a little set for yourself, so it becomes a fitness routine and also learning to work those basic punches. So that's part one, obviously the jab and cross. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will be working on some other videos for you very shortly.
Got that. Got that. Got that. Got that. Got that. Like you.